I started at the food bank in 2008. I didn't know much about the food bank, but I thought, feeding children, what a great job. I know that's probably confusing to some people who know me as a parent and think, you love children? But I do, in a way. I thought, okay, I know that children are the most vulnerable when we think about our population. They have the least amount of say as far as how resources get shared, how bills get paid. They don't get a say of if food is on the table or if food is not on the table. So for me, it was a social justice issue. Coming in with a social work background, it seemed like the perfect fit. And it was. Things were great. I loved this job. We were able to feed families, kids, as schools would tell stories about hungry children showing up to school. My answer was always absolutely yes. And John Mabry, who's here, our development director, I had a famous line of, "Can't you just ask for more?" Because I thought it was just that easy to get more money so that we could feed more kids. We had a great leader at that time, Scott Young, and things were great. We were coming up with innovative ways to feed more families. I loved the work that we did, and I really was hungry for more. And in 2015, everything changed for me.
It was February 2015 when I started at the food bank. And my family had just buried my dad a couple months prior, and that was a complicated relationship, but my dad gave me 2 really good pieces of advice. He said, choose a job that gives you meaning, and no job is worth making yourself sick over. And when I started at the food bank, I knew right away I had found my place. I loved the people, I loved the work. I had also known some people growing up who I loved and cared about who needed food. It was personal, and I felt connected instantly. There was just one problem: her. So, quick show of hands, how many of you are familiar with the Myers-Briggs type indicator? Great. Okay, so in one area of decision making, you're either identified as a feeler or a thinker. So if you know this, will my thinkers please show their hands? Okay. And you feelers? Tough crowd for you, Sampson.
Yeah, that's a bit disappointing.
So Alynn and I we have a lot of similarities. We're both determined, we're both very caring, we're stubborn, and committed. But for all of those similarities, for some reason, this thinker-feeler thing kept dividing us. And it became painfully obvious to me that this feeler did not care for that thinker. And that thinker did not care for this feeler.
That is accurate. I am a thinker, and I thought, this feeler over here sure wants to talk a lot about feelings. Sure wants to find meanings in everything that we're doing, talk about flowery things, and clearly she didn't know me because that's nonsense. We don't do that. We have a job to do. We need to be strategic. And there's just no time for feelings. And so I kept my distance. I made sure to let Michaella know that's not how I roll, and that's not how I think the food bank should roll either. And I've been here a long time, and it's my way. And I made sure that we kept that distance for years.
Years. At least 5 years, yeah. A lot of years. But then, and to be fair, I am a one-upper. We all have our insecurities. When I get insecure, and Alynn is intimidating, so I would find myself being insecure a lot around her, I would try to one-up and prove myself, and it came out. It's not a pretty thing, but it's human. And
yeah, I would make sure that Michaella knew, oh, you don't know the history of the food bank. I would cut her off in meetings. I would definitely be a little catty, and just made sure if there was information that would be helpful for Michaella,
I wasn't getting it.
Would make sure she wouldn't get it. Very helpful.
So this was real workplace conflict, real mean girl bullshit. And it kept going on. And I had had enough because it hurt. It really hurt.
It's true. And I think what really was a pivotal moment is we had to really stop and realize, as we were being catty, as we were one-upping and cutting each other off, people were not getting fed.
Not to the best of our ability.
We knew we could be better. And so
it was time?
It was time for Michaella. She definitely felt, okay, I've got to tell her how I feel. But there was a tipping point for you.
Yeah, there was.
And
yeah, there was.
I think the best fact is we're great friends. And I just found out this tipping point as we were in this process.
So, you make friends at work, you like each other's social media pages, and then you see some posts, like a picture of Alynn with a couple of colleagues on a chilly day, and they're all wearing vests, so cute, with the line, "Work vesties," which was fine. It was fine.
It was a good one.
It seemed so small, right? Like, not a big deal. Except I had also come to work that day wearing a vest. And it was not a mistake that I was uninvited or not included in that photo. And I knew it. I felt it. And I thought about my dad, and I thought, one, I'm stubborn. I love this job. I am supposed to be here. But I am not going to let my mental health or a bully get in the way of it. So it was time to have a serious conversation.
Yeah. So here comes Michaella down the hall, pulls me aside and says, "Hey, could I talk to you a minute in the conference room?" And I thought, okay, here we go. She's gonna want to talk about something that I'm not gonna want to talk about. So we went into our conference room and she laid it out and said, "This is bullshit. We cannot keep going like this. We cannot do this. And here's what it feels like." And she laid out her feelings that I had made her feel unwelcome from day one. This is now 2019. That I really have hurt her feelings, and we are so much better than what was happening. And it was in that moment that I had to make a choice. That I could either continue on and ignore this and say, no, everything's great, this is fine, or really own that moment to say, okay, thinker, dig deep here because it's time to be vulnerable, and accept that I have hurt someone. And I think for me that was the moment that it wasn't my direct intention to hurt someone. And I knew that we could feed better if we could just figure this out, and we couldn't keep going. So we laid it out and thought, okay, let's just start over. I knew that I needed Michaella. She was our communications director. We were starting a new initiative, and deep down I knew I would not be able to relay the message of what this work meant without the feelings. And I needed her words, I needed her expertise, and I knew she had to be at the table for that. So we thought, well, let's go to this conference together and learn about how to serve neighbors better. And you know what? Let's drive.
It's only 8 hours.
Let's take a road trip. Let's get in the car for 8 hours. We can't escape, and continue to hash this out. And so we did.
But why stop there?
Oh, why stop there? You're right. let's rent an Airbnb. Why would we stay in a separate hotel room? Let's do an Airbnb. Let's get a hot tub. Let's really knock this out.
We committed.
We did commit. And so we spent 8 hours in that car. We laughed. We ate.
We say it.
There may have been
cried.
a
We
few
cried.
tears that were shed. A few, And for the first time since 2015, we got to know each other. We got to learn about each other's families. We got to learn why we were in this work. We never even talked about, why does this matter? Why are we here? And it completely changed our relationship. And so we did this conference, we stayed in the Airbnb, and we came back and agreed, okay, we can do this.
And the timing was perfect because then a pandemic hit. And the food bank, in order to continue to serve our neighbors and keep ensuring access to food, we got into kind of the situation room and decided, our leadership came out, and we determined that we were gonna need to break up our staff into a work from home team and then 2 teams that would alternate coming in and doing the service. And for all this time in the history, it had been, you're either Team Alynn or you're Team Michaella. Except this time, we were in sync. And it was, again, Team Alynn and Team Michaella, but we had each other's backs. And our team needed us, our teams and our team needed us to show up and be together, support each other, and we got it done. And it was a horrible.
It was horrible. I guess we're leaving it at that. It was horrible. It was horrible.
It was a horrible, wonderful, magical, should I keep
Here
getting
we go.
started?
Yes, yes. Felt wonderful.
We survived it, and our team grew stronger. People got fed, and
Yes.
a record number of people got fed. And I learned, thanks. It made us closer. I appreciated things about Alynn that I had never seen before. She backed me in situations where I needed her. And she is so badass.
And so here we are. We made it out of that awful situation as friends, as colleagues. The greatest outcome, Michaella is now the president and CEO of the food bank.
Alynn leads Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach.
So we are these badass women leading 2 organizations, very similar missions, but still support each other. And I think that is a community win.
I feel like she's right.
I just hear these stories